We're Morningstar Lutheran Church from Monroe, Washington, and you're watching Rise Up Together Tonight. Rise Up Together Tonight. You're watching Rise Up Together Tonight.
Welcome everyone to Rise Up Together Tonight, the morning edition. I'm your host, Rachel Freet. We've got a great show lined up for you. Our theme today is Bring Hope, and our Bible focus comes from the 6th chapter of the Gospel of Mark. Jesus is presented with the task of feeding 5,000 people with what seems like very little resources. Even though the disciples didn't believe anything could be done to satisfy the crowd, Jesus knew differently. He wanted the disciples and everyone gathered to know that God will provide everything we need. As we leave Detroit and head back home, we are filled with hope knowing that God loves us, provides for us, and we are never alone. Revitalized by the Spirit, we are sent from Detroit to bring hope to others. We sat down earlier this week with Reverend Dr. Stephen Bowman about immigration as it affects the youth of today. Molly Beck-Dean talked with us about being the gathering director and how much she has learned in her new position. So don't go away. We'll be right back with more Rise Up Together Tonight.
Pastor Obvious here reminding you that 30,000 people, that's a lot of people. It's more than 30, more than 300, more than 3,000. 30,000, it's a lot of people. Remember to be kind to each other, polite, and help each other out. That way we can all have an excellent gathering.
Thanks, Pastor Obvious.
Our Rise Up Together Tonight reporter, Nicole Lyons, interviewed Reverend Dr. Stephen Bowman.
Thank you, Rachel. I'm here with Stephen Bowman, Executive Director of the Congregational and Synodical Missions Unit. How are you today?
I'm good.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, so can you tell us a little bit about how you see the gathering impacting our church?
Yes. 30,000 ways impacting our church, and their adult friends come with them. I think it's really important to help give the emerging generation a handle on conversations that are so hard around race, around those fault lines in our society that are tearing us apart, and where we always find ourselves at the defended space rather than a new space where we can listen and learn and share and receive gifts. So I really think it's important. I mean, the big question that was asked of us 3 years ago by some Detroit officials was, what does a white church think it's going to do bringing 30,000 people into our city? And I think the question impacted us because it also, I think, helps us to want to strive for our church to be what America's becoming. And I have great hope for that. There will be 30,000 people who will go back home and who will see the strength of the network of relationships of their church, who will feel empowered by that, who will be able to testify that new space where all God's children are welcome is not only possible, it's happening.
Right, I kind of like the way you said it. You said 30,000 different ways of impacting the church. Can you kind of expand on that a little bit? Because so many times you see 30,000 people as a whole. You don't see them as individuals.
Yeah, or like someone in Detroit described it as like a giant pack of Skittles was exploded all over the city.
That's my favorite one.
Yeah. Well, I think all of us want to register as ourselves. We want to know what is a good life. You know, today it's no secret. The whole world comes at us through our machines and our, and you tell a joke in Copenhagen, someone gets killed in Karachi. You know, and yet we are more alone and more afraid than we've ever been. And so I think 30,000 ways in which people have seen their own giftedness, their own uniqueness, that they become more themselves with others, that community actually helps foster the sweet self that each of us has. So yeah, 30,000 different ways, because we're not a herd. We're all people.
We're all individual. What would you say to the youth the youth individual who doesn't see themselves as something unique? How would you encourage them to kind of find that inner uniqueness?
Well, that's a good question, and it's hitting close to home as a retired high school nerd. I would say that it gets better. I would say that if you stay true to yourself and trust your own giftedness, the world will find ways to embrace you. And I'll also say that you're never alone, ever. You know, in our baptism, if I can just sort of preach for a minute, my grandpa once told me, in your baptism, the only death you ever have to be afraid of is already behind you. So God's already claimed you, loved you, made you the way you are, and there's nothing you can do about it, actually.
Mm-hmm. So how can the gathering participants here in Detroit bring hope to their congregations? How can they translate that hope?
Sharing what they see, what they saw, what they felt, translating the stories of people here in Detroit, helping people to see that they are us, working for racial justice, helping conversations have this conversation, congregations. We don't have to be afraid to talk about what the God of the Bible, who said, when I'm lifted up, will draw all people to myself. We don't have to be afraid of that conversation. So I think their courage would be really critical.
It's all about sharing the story this week.
Yeah.
And you just have to go home and continue to share that then.
Right.
All right, what role do you see youth and young adults having in the church today?
Many. I mean, many already are leading in our congregations and so on. But I really want youth and young adults to help the church see that we don't live for ourselves. So I want to see youth and young adults preparing themselves, and I want the church to help them prepare themselves actually for service in the world. You know, we have a fund for leaders for those preparing for service in the church.
Thank you so much for joining us
Thank
today.
you. It's been a pleasure.
All right, back to you, Rachel.
Thanks, Nicole. We've had a great week in Detroit. We are thankful to have spent time here participating in God's work, building bridges, bearing burdens, breaking chains, and bringing hope. We have learned more about the people who call the Detroit metro area home and more about ourselves. We have learned God has a plan, and God's plan may not match our plan. We have seen God's love in each other and in the world around us. As we leave this wonderful city and travel home, we are forever impacted by those who have encountered during our time here. Thank you for your hospitality, Detroit.
Thank you, Detroit! From South Dakota, thank you, Detroit! From Pittsburgh, thank you, Detroit! We're from Mitchell, South Dakota. Thank you, Detroit!
Thanks, guys. See ya.
Here are some highlights from the week.
Growing up in Detroit, and as all Detroiters know, we've seen the city through all the highs and through all the lows. I can say, as many of us agree, that this is the first time in my lifetime that we really genuinely feel that Detroit has a chance on being the city that it needs to be and it should be and that we've all fought for. And when you see things like 30,000 kids coming from around the world to help, well, it's just something, it's amazing, it's overwhelming. Here 800 kids are going to be walking into any ballroom, no. But let me tell you something, these kids are so joyful and the positive energy that they have is contagious. The energy that they have created not only within the city but within this hotel and amongst us is just, it's like nothing else. They're well behaved, they're genuinely good kids, they're sincere and their goodness as individuals and as groups shine through. It's an honor to have you all here, honestly. Thinking about it just now is when we have people like you and all of these kids here, that's it, the hope is alive. It's there and it's alive and well. And our dream to be a Chicago-type city or something that's exciting and a destination to be is right there at our fingertips. And you all are here making it happen. And the thing is, you're doing it just because.
How we doing? Hi. What's your name?
Gloria.
Are you from Detroit?
Oh, you got me on for real?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm from Detroit, Michigan. Yes.
Been here all your life?
Yes, sir.
So did you grow up in this area? Where'd you?
Yes, on Boulevard. Okay.
We'll have more Rise Up Together tonight after this.
I've been working with Miss Lisa Jeffries for 1.5 years, and we came up with this awesome plan to let the youth know the need in Detroit for diapers.
Diapers are everywhere!
I don't even have words to show you my excitement and how thankful our families are going to be on Monday when they get to pick up diapers.
We're from the UP, Michigan. Thank you, Detroit.
We're from Minnesota. Thank you, Detroit.
We're from Maryland. Thank you, Detroit.
Our Rise Up Together Tonight reporter, Nicole Lyons, interviewed Molly Beck-Dean. She is the Youth Gathering Director and talks with us about her new role.
Thank you, Rachel. I'm here with Molly Beck-Dean, the ELCA Youth Gathering Director. Now, Molly, it's your first youth gathering. How's it going so far?
It's been going great. We have an amazing team of volunteers that have been working for 2.5 years to get us to this stage, and now there are 1,500 volunteers on site, and the young people are here, and the adults are here, and there's so much energy, and things are going great.
What has the planning process been so far?
Well, we have 15 different planning teams that start about 2.5 years out from the gathering, and they are all in charge of different aspects of Mile and Dale and the youth gathering, and so they've been working very hard the last 2.5 years, and then it all comes together.
How will you add your own flair into future gatherings?
Well, I have lots of ideas, but I think it's kind of still to see. I have a huge passion for young people in leadership roles, and so I hope that's something that we can continue to grow, is how can young people be a part of these leadership teams and really infuse their voice and their visions for the gathering into what we're doing. The other part that I'm really passionate about is how can we continue to grow our resources for congregations for when they get home. So we have a great system for getting ready materials, and we try to be really connected and available for congregations as they prepare for the gathering. But then the kind of when they get back home piece, so how do they translate their experiences at the gathering into their everyday life at school, in their community, in their own congregation? How do they share those stories and continue the energy that's often generated for a congregation here? How do they continue that? So I hope that we can, in the next cycle or two, really build a great arsenal of resources for congregations to continue and enhance their home ministries because of the gathering.
What kind of advice do you have for participants at this gathering to go home and do that and kind of expand their home knowledge of the church?
One of the things that we're really focusing on for this gathering is stories, listening to stories. So what is the Detroit story? So they'll have the chance to listen to Detroiters, to hear that story, and to think critically about how the Detroit story that they're going to hear this week may differ from the Detroit story that the media tells. And so I would hope that they would go back home and do that too, to look around in their own communities, whether it's an urban community or a rural community or suburban or wherever they live, and what are the stories that they need to hear in their own community, and how can they be a part of that larger narrative where they are.
All right, and what does the gathering mean to you?
It's a huge expression of our church. It's the kind of largest thing that our church does. I think a lot of leaders point back to the gathering as a transformative kind of mountaintop experience in their own faith life, in their own vocational discernment. For me, it's a wonderful example of what can happen with great leaders, with the right leaders in the right place, and all of this creative and logistical energy that just fuses together.
Now, just between you and I, there's nobody else in the room. Off the record, tell me, where is the 2018 gathering going to be? I can keep a really good secret.
Just between you and I?
Just between you and I.
All right. The 2018 youth gathering will be in...
Really?
For real?
Okay, guys, you heard it here first. 2018 gathering is sure to be a good one. Back to you, Rachel.
Thanks, Nicole. Here are some highlights from the week.
One last question, kind of fun. If you could be any animal, what would you be and why?
Well, I'd have to be able to fly, so I think I'd want to be a pterodactyl.
A giraffe. And I love giraffes.
I would be my cat.
A butterfly. The typical butterfly story. Started off as a caterpillar and then just kind of grew into something beautiful and lovely. That's my life story.
Some kind of bird, because I've always wanted to fly.
Either a gorilla or a bear.
I would want to be a bulldog because I just think they're the most coolest animals in the world.
If I could be any animal, I would be my golden doodle, because that dog has it made. That dog eats better than I do. She sleeps better than I do. She gets her nightly walk.
Party animal.
I know, I think I'd like to be a hawk.
A hawk?
They soar, and if you watch them, they can catch the wind, and they can just soar without flapping their wings, and it just seems so graceful and free.
Right.
I don't like the killing small animals part. I would not do that. I'd be a pacifist hawk.
But also, cows. I love cows.
I think I'd rather be a dolphin, because dolphins get to swim, they get to fly, they get to hang out with people, some of them.
So I would be an impala, because they're like sexy, cool reindeer.
All right, so that's a new take on the impala.
No, they've been that all along.
All on? All
yes,
right.
Graceful, a little leaner, a little meaner,
We're from California. Thank you, Detroit.
Hola, my name is Orlando Laureano. Soy de Puerto Rico. I am from Puerto Rico, Iglesia Luterana Sion. And I am very grateful for the city of Detroit to receive us And I can say just one thing. Thank you, Detroit. Gracias, Detroit.
Hey everyone, my name is Nicole Lyons, and I want to take a moment to thank everybody for joining us on our show. I also want to say thank you to the City of Detroit for your great hospitality, and we hope our impact is felt for years to come. On behalf of all the Rise Up Together Tonight team, thank you for joining us this year in Detroit. I'm Nicole Lyons, reporting for the 2015 ELCA Youth Gathering.
We have had a great week in Detroit. We hope you've enjoyed our show. We will be posting each night's show and complete interviews with everyone on our show this week on elca.org/video. We hope you have a safe trip home. On behalf of everyone at Rise Up Together Tonight, I'm Rachel Freet. Thanks for watching. God bless.